So basically, they gave Europeans the right to steal the world. So, did you know that the Pope gave Europeans the right to take land, colonize, and enslave people, all in the name of Christianity? The papal bulls were official decrees issued by the Pope in the 15th century. These documents granted European powers like Spain and Portugal divine permission to conquer non Christian lands. And basically, if you weren't Christian, your land was free to take. These are the key ones to know, known as the doctrine of discovery. And these doctrines considered non Christian people inferior, and their land was claimable. It was nobody's land. Here it states the doctrine of discovery turned colonial theft into a legal and moral act under the authority of Christianity. And that set the tone for a lot of native land claims and legal battles that we see today. But let's take it back. What would compel the Pope in the 1400s to even write such a doctrine? Constantinople fell, making the trade routes to Asia that the Europeans once had access to inaccessible. So this means their resources declined, and Europeans needed to look for other ways to travel east. Europe was recovering from the Black Death that wiped out nearly half of its population. These events left monarchies desperate for resources to rebuild their economies, and they needed gold and silver and things like that to compete with rival powers. And what better way to acquire those resources than to use religion to dominate? And since Portugal had already began to explore the African coast, Spain wanted to compete, so they looked west. Contrary to popular belief, before Christopher Columbus, people were sailing west and discovering different tribes in the west and discovering different resources in the west. And they were coming back to report their findings. And with Johann Gutenberg's printing press available, these stories were able to circulate faster, building the ambition of the monarchies to go ahead and spread west to see what they could get. So essentially, the papal bulls were enacted to serve as tools for social upward mobility for the Europeans who were recovering from the Black Death and who were suffering dire economic situations. And they were just looking to bounce back. The document was even referenced in 1823 when the U.S. wanted to prove that they had actual sovereignty over the Native Americans who they deemed only had a right to inhabit the land. But in 2023, Pope Francis came out and said basically, hey, we never authorized the doctrine of discovery. We never really used that to enforce colonization. No, not us. And this is how European monarchies combine religion, politics, and economics to justify colonization and exploitation. Isn't that crazy?